video, I talk about 9 signs that will show in your body if you are eating too much salt. In today's video, I want to finish it up with a long-term effect if you are eating too much salt. And also, I want to wrap it up with some of the things that you can do so that you can cut down your salt intake. So if you are interested, keep watching. Hello friends, my name is Josy. I'm a pharmacist with holistic background. In my previous video, I talk about 9 science-based signs that will show that if you are eating too much salt. I will leave it in my description below and also up there so that you can check it out. And also, all my videos are science-based. It means that I do a little research on the science background. And I will leave some of the stuff that I read in my description below so that if you want to read more about it, feel free to do so. Although there is a lot of short-term effect when you eat a lot of salt, but the long-term effects are even worse. So I just want you to take a moment and look at some of the food that you've been eating and try to check if they contain a lot of salt or not. On the food label, they may label it as sodium. It's the same thing. So take a look at the food labels when you go to supermarkets, when you go to grocery store, to see how many salt you need, to see how many salt in the food that you are going to eat. Most of the time, a lot of people think that there's not too much salt in the food that I'm eating because I'm not adding any table salt. That's not true. The sodium in the processed food are all salts. They mean the same. When you eat a lot of salt, scientific has proved that it may enlarge your heart muscle. You can have a lot of headache, high blood pressure, osteoporosis, even cancer. Eating a lot of salt may affect your body in so many ways. In a day, we just need 1,500 milligrams of salt. It's very, very little. An average American eats about 3,500 milligrams of salt. That's really a lot. So check out the salt intake of your food, which means sodium on your label. Do you also know that a lot of salt put pressure on your kidney? Our kidney is one of the organs in our body that help us a lot. It helps us remove all the waste from our body, especially fluid. So when you eat a lot of salt, it doesn't help the kidney function very well. If you have a lot of kidney problems, it means that your body cannot get rid of any waste coming out from your body. It's going to make you more sick. So do well to reduce your salt intake. A lot of research shows that 9 out of 10 people in America here eat too much of salt or sodium, which I've already said that it does not really help our kidney. It leads to a lot of diseases like stroke, hypertension, heart diseases, and many more. So I'm going to give you some of the tips to cut back your sodium intake. My number 1 tip is to read your food label. Anytime you go to the shop to buy something from the shelf, especially the one that it can stay on the shelf for a long time, I want you to look at it and read the label. If it says sodium, it means that's how much salt is contained in that food. Salt is good for its preservative. It means that it can keep the food for a long time. So the processed food that they keep on the shelf, they have to add a lot of salt or a lot of sodium so that it can stay on the shelf for a long time. So read your label so that you will know how much sodium is in that food. which means that that's how much salt you're going to put in your body. So try and read your label very well. It tells you a lot about the food that you are eating. My next point is that when you go to the shop to buy your frozen vegetables or fruits, make sure you check fresh vegetables or fruits. Don't buy the one that is being seasoned with sauces and other seasons. It means that they are adding a lot of sodium to it. So I normally read the label that come back to it to check if it's just a fresh fruit or vegetable. If something is added to it, it means that they are adding sodium so that it can stay in the fridge for a long time. So just check for frozen vegetables or fruits, but make sure they are fresh fruit and vegetable. Nothing else added to it. And for some of you who like eating meat a lot, you always have to check that as well. Check for fresh meat, not the seasoned one. When you come home, you can add your own season to it. I normally check if they are really fresh. I'm not the type that I eat meat a lot, but if I'm going to eat meat, I'll buy the fresh one and I'll add my own herbs or my own season. Because normally the one that is packaged, they have to preserve it with salt or sodium. So they contain a lot of sodium. So really check. Go to your farm market and make sure you get the fresh ones, not the packaged ones that is in your grocery stores. Because they have to preserve it with salt or sodium, and with too much of it is not good for our body. So buy your fresh meat, not the packaged ones. Are you just like me that you eat spices and seasons a lot because you want your food to taste very good? Make sure you also check your label to see if it does not contain any sodium. Most of the time they add a lot of sodium to the spices and season so that they can stay in the shelf for a long time, and also I think to make it taste good. So you have to check if the label doesn't tell you it has a sodium or salt in it. I always want my fresh spices and my season. If I'm going to buy season, I have to double check myself if it contains a lot of salt or a lot of sodium. So do well as well. We want our food to taste good. That's why we season our food. That's why we use spices. But double check if it contains a lot of salt or a lot of sodium. Are you also the type that go out to eat a lot? Most of the time, the food that they prepare at the restaurant contain a lot of salt and sodium. But when you go out to eat, you may ask them to give you food that wasn't prepared with salt. I think most restaurants will be willing to do that. So if you are going out, make sure you ask, is there any food that doesn't contain salt? And they'll be willing to do that for you. At times, the restaurant thinks that the salt or the sodium can make the food taste really good. So they add too much to it. But too much of it, as I said, is not good for us. Thanks for watching me today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell beside it so that you wouldn't miss any of my video. Thanks for my new subscribers. I really appreciate you. And make sure you don't eat too much salt. Thank you.